In a world of bank-robbing criminals, genocidal aliens, and godlike powerhouses, Invincible delivers no shortage of villains. But one of its most devastating antagonists isn't an alien warlord or a dimension-hopping tyrant, he's just a man. A man named Scott Duvall. Powerplex. At first glance, Powerplex might seem like a throwaway character, a one-note villain, but to reduce him to that misses the rich depth of his story and his Shakespearean tragedy. Powerplex is a depressingly human critique on heroism and systematic failure, and there's a reason that Aaron Paul, such a powerful, emotional actor, was hired to play him. Powerplex is the story that begins after the battle ends. The writers take great care not to introduce him as Powerplex, but as Scott Duvall, a simple family man sharing a beautiful moment with his sister and niece, minutes before their demise.
Gretch can't wait to meet her cousin.
She looks so carefree.
It's the childhood we never got.
Uncle Scott, hold up your hands again. I want to do the thing.
Gretchen!
It's okay, Jess. Here.
So cool. Make a bigger one.
Sorry, kiddo. That's as big as I can make them.
Aww.
He isn't cosmic or immortal. Powerplex is something much scarier. Relatable. An ordinary person. Even as a villain, we see him awkwardly rehearsing speeches, juggling a mundane job, clinging to the one person who still sees him, his wife. He doesn't feel evil, he feels real. Powerplex stands apart because his origin is grounded in something far more genuine than lust or evil: grief. His family was killed in a bloody battle. He sees Invincible holding the disfigured body of his beloved sister. The show rarely lingers on the aftermath of its massive battles, but Powerplex is that aftermath made flesh. Mark may have saved the day, but for Scott, that day never ended. He's what happens when a good person is let down at every turn, and under the right circumstances, anyone could become Powerplex. What makes his story resonate is that he tries to follow the rules. Scott takes the civilian route, gathers evidence, gains online supporters. Over the course of a year, he tries to go through legal channels and open an investigation, attempting to hold someone accountable for the Chicago massacre. But the justice system fails him. They call it out of their hands, saying that human laws don't apply to situations like this. That dismissal is what starts his transformation, fueled from grief and anger. When justice fails him, he realizes he can only rely on himself and turns to violence because he feels it's the only way to be heard. That exact scene is the boiling point, where he realizes the system is telling him his pain doesn't matter, and that is when Powerplex is truly born. Powerplex doesn't hate heroes. He hates their failure, their indifference to civilian lives. And his belief isn't wrong. Invincible, for all his heroics, still causes collateral damage. People still die because of him. Scott says it himself.
They both died in Chicago, and it feels like their deaths don't matter.
Of course they matter.
Then where's the investigation? Okay, the charges, the trial.
Invincible was defending the planet from an alien threat.
How do we know that? Okay, the threat was his own father. If he's so innocent, then open an investigation, let a jury decide, give us justice.
When he receives no closure, his grief curdles into something darker, and he sets his sights on Invincible. Not Omni-Man, Mark. Because he's the one within reach. Not because Invincible was the only one responsible, but because someone needed to pay. In Scott's eyes, the world let Invincible walk away without consequence, and that's what makes his story so compelling. While revenge is a factor, this isn't a traditional revenge story. Powerplex wants accountability, and to be acknowledged in a world that refuses to see his pain and how valid it is. But even as a criminal, no one listens. The show treats him like a joke at first, undermining his pain and reducing his efforts to a fool's errand. We all know the iconic title card scene.
You're not listening! This isn't about me! This is about the thousands of people murdered and the countless other lives destroyed! Why is above the law? Why does never pay for his crimes?
Characters dismiss him, viewers might too, but that's the point. He constantly pushes the stakes higher and higher, sending him deeper into obsession, into danger, and into desperation to make the world take him seriously. Halfway through the episode, Powerplex is willing to attack and take over the memorial for those lost in the Chicago massacre, just to get Invincible's attention. This isn't just a personal vendetta either, it's a meta-critique of the superhero genre itself. Films and media often skip past the real-world consequences of destruction, the civilians caught in the crossfire, the families left behind, but Powerplex represents the collateral damage we rarely see, and he refuses to be forgotten. He absorbs energy, aggression, violence, and turns it back tenfold. Powerplex literally becomes more powerful from violence, and the more the world hurts him, the worse he becomes.
Hey, I warned him. I said I didn't want to fight. He attacked me.
His power is a microcosm for Powerplex as a character. And his weakness? Restraint. Compassion. The very things he never received. More so, he's a villain who feeds on and punishes the very thing heroes often rely on to solve problems. Brute force. This forces heroes to rethink their approach. They can't just punch him away. They have to think, empathize, restrain. A fight with Powerplex is never a brawl. It's a test of emotional maturity. What makes Scott even more tragic is that deep down, he wants to help people and believes that he is. And from time to time, he is a hero. After escaping from prison during the Invincible War, he doesn't go on a rampage. He saves people, he works with authorities, he pulls civilians from the rubble. He's not malicious by nature, he's capable of good. Brief comic spoilers here for events that haven't occurred yet in the show. He even joins the Actioneers, while Mark is off-world during the Viltrumite War. He stops villains, and he saves lives. That's the tragedy. He could have been saved, but no one listened long enough to stop the descent. And when Mark returns to his life, all that trauma comes rushing back. Powerplex spirals and attacks him again, because for him, Invincible is the embodiment of everything Scott has lost.
How do we rebuild from this?
You! How dare you show your face here? How much death do you need? When will it be enough?
In the final moments of the episode, Scott lures Invincible out by staging a hostage crisis, with his own wife and infant child as bait. His wife goes along with it, not because she's brainwashed, but because Becky believes that strongly in his cause, so she does the unthinkable to help him be heard. And then, tragedy strikes. In one of the most devastating moments in the show, Scott unleashes a massive surge of electricity, intending to kill Invincible once and for all. The blast is devastating, and he nearly succeeds, but it comes at an unthinkable cost.
Oh, God.
He vaporizes his wife and child, and his crusade for justice becomes the source of his own devastation. But Powerplex doesn't break. He doesn't crack. He doubles down and blames Invincible, vowing to kill him with his own bare hands. If before was the moment Powerplex was born, this is the moment where Scott Duvall, his soul, his ideals, and the man he used to be, dies. This is when Powerplex becomes the thing he swore to destroy, what he sees Invincible as, a reckless superhuman who kills others and refuses to take responsibility. In that moment, we see him lock that away. He represses the trauma because truly acknowledging it would break him. The only thing he has left is the narrative he's clung to, that Invincible is the enemy, that someone has to pay, because if Invincible is responsible, then Scott never has to be. That's what makes Powerplex so impactful as a character. He's not just a threat to Mark's life, he threatens his philosophy. Scott is living proof that good intentions are not enough to excuse harm. He represents what Mark fears becoming, feared and hated by the very people he tries to save. Powerplex holds up a mirror and asks our protagonist, what happens to the people you fail to protect? What happens when a hero walks away from the wreckage, but the victims can't? And his impact on Mark is lasting. The guilt, the questions, this fear that despite his best efforts, he's caused more harm than good. For the first time in his life, Powerplex shatters the black and white perspective Mark tries to uphold within himself and makes him truly question what it means to win. That's why, even after his arc, his presence lingers. Powerplex is a tragedy, a cautionary tale, and an emotional reckoning. Scott's pain was never acknowledged. His grief was politicized, ignored, and mocked. He is such a good villain because he was never trying to be one at all. He was a hero who lost sight of why he fights, sculpted into an antagonist by a society that failed to help him. Powerplex is the thesis of the entire season, connecting the three main themes across all the episodes. Analyzing the simple lens of good and evil, humanizing villains, and exposing the nuance of superhero life. He's not just one of the best characters in Invincible, he's one of the best written tragic figures in modern superhero storytelling. In a world of bank-robbing crooks, genocidal aliens, and godlike powerhouses, it's this one man's pain that leaves the deepest scar. And sometimes the most haunting villain is the one who started out just like us, just a man named Scott Duvall, Powerplex, and we understand exactly how he got there. That's what makes him unforgettable.